Good morning. You're watching Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie. It is 8:42.
And let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages, shall we? We are joined by editor-of-Spite Tom Slater and the broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon, who are both here with us. Very good morning to you both.
Morning.
Morning.
We are going to start by going through the front pages of the papers, aren't we? And the Express leads with a family who are lucky to be alive after a tornado tore their home apart in Manchester yesterday.
The Times has civil servants being over-promoted to get round a pay squeeze, according to analysts, anyway.
Two-thirds of doctors are suffering from moral distress caused by the state of the NHS. That's on the front page of The Guardian.
The Eye has Boris Johnson telling Rishi Sunak to speed up the UK's transition to nuclear power.
And more than half of the police are not investigating crime properly. That's on the front page of The Telegraph.
All right, let's see what Tom and Claire make of some of those. Morning, you two. Let's kick off with losing our marbles in the Express. Tom?
Yeah, so George Osborne, former Chancellor, a man with many jobs. Of course, one of his jobs is that he's the Chair of Trustees at the British Museum. So he's weighed in on the subject of the Elgin marbles on his Political Currency podcast, which he does with Ed Balls, apparently. I'm yet to meet a fan of it, but apparently it's a thing. And he has, quite unhelpfully for Rishi Sunak, suggested that a deal could be struck between the Greek government and Britain to return the marbles, but essentially on loan in exchange for
Well, the
other
British
Greek
Museum is very good at losing things.
Well,
under his tenure.
You know, people can
just walk out with stuff.
Yeah. Maybe the Greek Prime Minister should have tried that during his visit, just, smuggle one out under his jacket and everything would have been fine. But, again, it's this long-running debate, isn't it? I mean, one thing that always gets lost in the midst of this is that the Greek Acropolis Museum in Athens already has some of the artefacts there anyway. Obviously, many of them are here because of the fact that they were rescued effectively by
and they were bought.
Exactly.
We're happy for them to take the money for them.
And they were being ground down into mortar at that point because of the fact that they'd kind of fallen into disrepair. So it's one of those things where I think the weird thing about this debate is I think the status quo actually works quite well. You have a bunch of them in the Acropolis Museum there where you can see them kind of in their natural context. There's also a bunch of them here where you can see them in the context of all kinds of other civilisations.
Preservation and being looked after.
And I just wonder why that wouldn't work.
Well, would they? Look what happened. Like, the reason we had to buy them in the first place was because they were falling into disrepair.
Did we actually buy them?
We did. Apparently there was a transaction and we bought them.
Probably for about £1.
So what do we make then of the Greek? Was it King Charles who wore the Greek tie when he met with the president of Greece or something?
That was a bit naughty.
Do we think that was a political statement by the king?
Yeah.
Is that something the king should be doing, though?
No.
I don't think
It's
so.
not stopping him, though, is it? He gave that speech at COP28 as if that's not a political thing to do.
COP, you mean the new Davos?
Yeah.
Oh, on fire this morning.
Ridiculous. Well, let's hope the king put his tail then between his legs, meaning the tie. It's ridiculous.
Do you want to do that?
Let's do women's sport, Claire, in the Express this morning.
Yeah, Daley Thompson, Sharon Davis and Martina Navratilova, all greats of their time, all Olympians apart from Martina. I don't think she won an Olympic medal. However, she is one of the best female tennis players of all time. So they're calling for those born female, biologically women, to keep women's sports. And I think I agree with them. We need to have the preservation there against gender ideology in women's sports because it doesn't make for a fair playing ground. Women and men are different. We all know that. We're biologically different. And boys are stronger than girls. They can run faster than girls. They can cycle longer, faster and harder than girls can, than women can. The statistics and the evidence is there to support what I've just said. When men do either identify as trans, and sport in and play in women's sporting fields and events, the men win. The men that are biologically, the trans women that are born men, win. That's not fair. That's, again, an erosion of women's spaces, of women's sport, of women's elite, and I think they're right, and I agree with them. I think it is time that women's sport has a ban on women that are not born biologically women.
Tom, what do you make of that?
I completely agree. I think if you allow for what is often euphemistically called trans inclusion in sports, you destroy women's sports effectively. It just doesn't work. I mean, a lot of the flashpoint cases of this is a situation where you had someone who was competing in the men's category, often quite kind of middling, if low ranking, and suddenly moving to the women's category and are breaking records left, right and centre, breaking records of women Olympians and things like this. This obviously doesn't make any sense.
It's not fair.
Is unfair. No. And it's also a huge problem, not just at the top levels where we often notice it, but even at the lower level, the grassroots, where you not only have problems with, again, unfairness and so on, but also safety. If you're talking about certain contact sports, it's obviously a bad idea.
I think it's how you frame it, though.
Well, it is, and
to
use the words of unfairness, automatically people, the kind of hankles get up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what do you mean it's not fair? Oh, actually, competition, the definition of competition is to have a fair playing ground, a fair starting point. And that is the most basic starting point, to have those of the same sex. And interestingly, you spoke about, like, safeguarding. When my son played rugby when he was a mini, and there was girls involved as well, it was tag rugby and this, that and the next thing, you could see the boys just not quite going in for it as the tackle, as if they would be if they were against a boy.
Yeah.
So there is the differential there. And I don't think that's right.
No, well, look, I think there's a lot to be said for that position.
Tom, let's take a look at this really damning report, shall we? Half of police forces, more than half, are failing to investigate crime properly. This is from an official watchdog.
It is. So this is going to be not a surprise to many people, I dare say, but another sign of how the police force are failing people at the moment. So Home Office figures have been analysed here by the Telegraph, and it's just that at the moment 1 in 18 offences that are reported to the police lead to a suspect actually being charged, and that's down from 1 in 6 a decade ago. So it's a huge gap in terms of what's actually taking place. It suggests that many police forces are doing well on other kind of measures in terms of how they're dealing with the public and so on. But this is the most fundamental thing. When a crime is committed against you, you expect it to be dealt with promptly, you expect someone to show up, and yet everyone will know of, in their own life or someone they know, who something happens, something is stolen, whatever, and the police are basically just there to give you a crime reference number so you can claim on your insurance, and that's it. Yeah. And that's obviously not good enough, not just for individuals, but also a society in which kind of low-level crime is just allowed to slip.
Shoplifting
can very quickly spin out of control and feel like no one's actually in control of the situation. So another damning story for the police here, definitely. Yeah,
I think it's a fair point. Let's go to... You've got to be of a certain age, but the Smart Press Association looking at details have finally been revealed about Spycatcher.
Spycatcher, remember that?
Yeah.
Peter Wright's book that was banned in this country, and the Conservative government at the time under Thatcher tried to take the publishers and they succeeded for it not to be published in the UK. However, it was published in Australia, and it shows the memoirs of an MI5 agent who then leaked a lot of things. But the interesting backstory here is that of what Thatcher tried to do in order to stop it. And in fact, it was actually her memo that actually lifted the lid on it and lifted the gagging of the MI5 suspect at the time. So Thatcher signed off on the secret Spycatcher, which was leaked to a journalist. And, you know, the papers are released by the National Archives today. That's why it's hitting the press today, because all of these new, not allegations, but the new facts are now coming to fruition. And it's something like a Jean Le Carre novel, you know? It's spies, it's espionage, it's everything you wanted to read, and it actually happened. The bringing down of governments, the selling of knowledge, the double agents, and, you know, you just think, for me, I'm very interested in that. I think the whole domestic MI5 and the international MI6 is quite wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Isn't it?
I agree. I do sort of think got to be very careful. I mean, this information all coming out now, great.
Yeah.
It's far enough gone.
Happening, don't you think?
Oh, yes, it is. It'll be happening differently now.
Well, you know, the agent that was forensically, there was nothing to touch it when he was killed and zipped up in a bag.
Oh, yes.
You know, there's lots and lots of those stories.
Yeah.
That, OK, you say it's public interest. Of course, we would all love to know. But I do think some things are better kept out of the public.
It was an interesting story as well of how difficult it is to suppress a story, to suppress a book when it actually gets out, because it was banned in England and Wales, but not in Scotland. You had people from various media organisations who would go and buy up copies in Australia, take them through customs, declare them, and it made clear that they couldn't actually suppress it. So also a kind of clear example of when governments or anyone else tries to censor a particular story, tries to suppress it. It often doesn't work.
Some of them are valid in Scotland and some of them are only valid here.
Exactly.
Yeah. But honestly, it'd be a different world again now, wouldn't it, in trying to ban stuff because of the internet?
Yeah.
It's just instantly everywhere.
But you couldn't do it now, could you?
No. Right, let's talk about kitchens. Fancy a new kitchen.
We've got a lovely kitchen.
Can't afford one. What's going on at Wickes?
So Wickes in Basingstoke, one of their customers, Paul Gibbons, was very upset with the quality of the kitchen that he was delivered by Wickes. He said the finish was terrible. He was very upset. He obviously wasn't given his refund. So he did the...
Next best thing.
The next best thing, which is to rent a tank and to park it outside with the quite charming sort of passive-aggressive message where he's put Wickes down and kind of like an acrostic and to spell out warning, incompetent, complacent kitchen equipment supplier.
Oh, dear.
Which is great, kind of the miffed middle classes sort of statement there. But yes, so next time that you're furious with the services you might have been delivered by any particular retailer, why not hire a tank and park it outside?
I wonder how much that cost him.
Does
To hire a tank.
I'll tell you what, though.
No, you could hire a tank that easily as well, which is...
Yeah, who knew? I've got a lot of questions.
You know.
I'll tell you what. I
How
don't
did
know
you drive it there?
Don't know the rights and wrongs.
Have you got a tank and you're not ready to use it?
I tell you what. If you're not happy with if you're not happy with the quality of something, you should be able to stand your ground. Of
course you should.
This isn't. My nana did that. You know, she had some curtains that she bought off the market stall. I don't know, 70 years ago, and they fell apart after I don't know. 3-4 months, wouldn't replace them. So she stood by out next to the stall with them, and every time anyone came up, she went,
Don't
look,
buy it
don't
from
buy
me."
it. Look, this is what
Good
happens
for
to your
her.
curtains.
Good for
That's
her.
a very long time ago. They had no money.
It's a woman after my own heart.
There you go, strong woman,
Yeah, good
strong
for her.
family.
Well, especially when you spend so much money on kitchens. If it's bad quality, you should have a right to take
Well,
it back.
hopefully they weren't orange and people thought the house was on fire.
Well,
No,
yeah,
that-
down to Blackpool Tower. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank
Been
you.
good to see you this morning.
Thank
Hope you have a
you.
wonderful new year.
And you too.
And
Yeah,
we'll
have a
see you
lovely
in
new year.
2024.
The weather's not looking too great for New Year, though. Alex will have all the details now for you.